More facts come out in the greatest scandal of American history, the cover-up of Biden and the cover-up of the cover-up. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is from Scott Adams. He is the author of the comic Dilbert, who back in 2016, maybe even 2015, was one of the first guys to come out in support of Donald Trump and say that he could win. These are people that said it before Trump was even a legitimate, viable guy. He has a lot of wisdom on the subject. He's been MAGA way before anybody else. He just announced that he has the same kind of cancer as Joe Biden, and Trump gave him a call offering condolences to Scott Adams. But here's Scott Adams on why it's important not to forget the Joe Biden event.
And then poor Whoopi Goldberg and the ladies of The View, they're trying to deal with the fact that they've been essentially revealed as absolute morons in front of the world. So the way Whoopi's decided to try to deal with it is she says,
why is this important to know now?
Yeah, well, that's what some people want to know.
It just seems to me, we got a lot of stuff to be concerned about at the moment.
Yeah.
So we should just ignore that we've been gaslit for 4 years with a mentally incompetent guy as our leader. It's like, let's just ignore that. Well, here's the answer, Whoopi. This is telling us who to trust next time. If your news source said he was perfectly fine, and then you learned that he wasn't, and that every viewer knew he wasn't, well, are you gonna trust that news source next time? Generally, I don't like living in the past either, so I get the idea about ignoring the past and focusing on the future. But you can't do it this time. This time you really need to kind of understand what the hell happened and who was pushing the auto pen and who is in charge of the country. Those are kind of big questions, Whoopi. So Whoopi, you guys are morons. The whole world knows it now, except for 27%.
Except for 27% who still support the Democrat Party and Whoopi Goldberg. Now, we're someone you can trust because we did call it out before. That's why we are a reliable news source. And I'd like to say a special prayer for Scott Adams' healing. We pray for him. But he said he doesn't think he has till past the summer. This is an old excerpt from Sam Harris. The reason why they're okay with lying about Joe Biden is that they thought that Trump was such a big threat that you tell any lie that you need. That's all of the media, and that's The View. They really don't believe that anything is true about Biden. They don't believe anything of the negative things that they're saying about Trump. They've deduced that he is a big enough threat that you have to tell any lie to avoid him. Here's Sam Harris, who claims to be some logical guy. This is way back in the day about Hunter Biden's laptop. Quote, at that point, Hunter Biden literally could have had the corpses of children in his basement. I would not have cared, says Sam Harris. Whatever the scope of Joe Biden's corruption is, if we understand he's getting kickbacks from Hunter Biden's deals in Ukraine or China, it is infinitesimal compared to the corruption we know Trump is involved in. Now, that is the thinking of most anti-Trump people who I've talked to just over the years, including now. They're saying, look, Biden could be selling us out to China as the president, and he's not as bad as Trump. That's according to these people. I'm only saying now that people like Sam Harris and The View and all of CNN and Jake Tapper and all your Democrat friends have been proven in hindsight to be wrong, largely lying. Trump is not anywhere near as corrupt and lying as the media or the Biden. Now that we know this, what are you going to do? Well, this Democrat lady is saying the Democrat Party is toast.
This is what I care about the most, Leland, is that the Democratic Party proved itself to be hypocrites. And two things that people cannot abide: hypocrites and liars.
These are all Democrats agreeing, guys. So I just want to give you the lay of the land. The Democrats' brand is in the toilet, that they're known as hypocrites and liars.
So they wanted to say that President Donald J. Trump was the biggest threat to democracy, when it turns out that the Democratic Party itself was the biggest threat to democracy. Whenever you don't allow for a primary, and you have a congressman right here, right now, who had the courage of his conviction to run. Don't forget that Julian Castro, too, when he was running in 2020, said that there was something wrong with President Biden. Now, he's not a medical doctor, but that was his observation.
You didn't have to be a doctor. We all saw it.
But Leland, but then he was ostracized too. So the Democratic Party, the same things that they claim that Republicans do, they do to Democrats like myself and the congressmen and others. And I don't know if they disappeared Julian Castro. I hope he's okay, because he told the truth on that stage. The biggest mistake that the party made, in my opinion, before we got to this point, was to not allow for a robust primary. And the Democratic Party itself must answer to that. And the same people who got us in this mess are not the ones who can get us out.
Democrats aren't capable of fixing what's wrong with themselves. Same thing with California, with Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass and all their Democrats in charge in California. The ones that got you into this mess are not the kinds of people to get you out of it. So Joe Biden, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, CNN, the ones that got us into the Biden mess are not the ones to get you out.
Hi, Liz. A Maryland Democrat is trying to increase support for the bill he drafted a couple of months ago. It would establish a panel to determine whether or not President Trump is fit to serve.
So something is deeply wrong at the White House, and we hope whoever's in control over there can get on top of it and pull back from this terrible situation.
Look at all these dummies in the background. This is the parade of dummies. These are the dumbest, most naive people in the world. I would dislike them even more if they weren't so clownish and funny. They're so fake and on parade, kind of everyone knows they're discredited now. He's going, we need to put together a permanent panel. What do you think they would discover? You know, a J6-like panel. What do you think they would discover between Biden and Trump? Who was mentally incompetent? Who literally could not hold his stool in during public events? Who wandered off the stage? They'd go, oh, perfectly fine. Totally has to stay in power. Trump, he must be immediately incarcerated into an insane asylum.
No gentleman, and he seems increasingly like a barbarian in terms of his treatment of his fellow citizens. So something is deeply wrong at the White House.
Representative Jamie Raskin proposed his bill in April, and it headed to committee in early May. At the time, 20 Democratic lawmakers signed on as co-sponsors. Raskin argues that Section 4 of the 25th Amendment gives Congress the power to set up a permanent body to decide whether or not the president is able to perform the responsibilities of the office.
These people are not Democrats. They don't believe in votes. They don't believe in primaries. These people cannot be trusted. They're claiming Trump's the barbarian. There's nothing more barbaric than what Raskin is proposing, what they tried to do to Trump. They are the barbarians. On not forgetting the Joe Biden thing and why we can't move on, here's Victor Davis Hanson.
The only reason we're even talking about it now is that Joe Biden has no power to reward or punish Jake Tapper and the media. So they're very brave now because he's out of power, and Jake Tapper wants to redeem himself. And we all know that if he wasn't writing this book, he would be quiet right now. And his publisher has probably told him, you've got to make a half-hearted apology, which he didn't do. He just said he feels humbled or humiliated, a little bit contrite. Then on top of that, we had the Biden family or the Biden spokespeople just 3 days before this book announcing the medical condition. That was unfortunately time to draw attention away using a medical crisis. No one believed the medical exegesis that this was a fairly recent development. So
they had no credibility. They didn't learn their lesson. They're going to do it again, guys.
Expectation that President Biden is going to meet this moment with the courage and resilience that he's consistently shown. Seems to me entirely inappropriate that at this moment in time, when President Biden is dealing with a serious and aggressive form of cancer, there are Republicans who are peddling conspiracy theories and want us to look backward.
See, he's going to do that. We got to look forward. We got to move on. He was dealing with this thing 5 years ago. I was concerned back then. Remember, I was asking for proof of life of Biden when he kept going missing, and now we find out he was probably going missing from treatment.
At a time when they actually are taking health care away from the American people? No, as House Democrats, we're going to look forward.
And is this guy a believable guy when he said Biden was sharp as a tack and fine, and now he says we're going to take away health care? Do you believe him? What are the chances of him telling another lie?
But what I do know is that Trump's cabinet, several members of his cabinet, had very real discussions about whether he was qualified to be president.
It was Trump's cabinet that thought he was nuts, not Biden's. we're going to spin it back on Trump.
Invoking the amendment to say we should take the presidential powers away from him when he was doing the shenanigans
But doesn't
around
that
January
seem kind
6th.
of laughable at this point when you look at what President Biden, Jake Sullivan, he didn't recognize Jake Sullivan at one point.
Martha,
He didn't recognize you, and he supported you.
Here's my point. Here's my point, Martha. Biden's cabinet apparently did not convene those discussions.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you. Why?
Well, I think it's a good question why Trump's cabinet convened those.
Trump's cabinet convened those because Trump didn't realize in that first administration that he went along with the normal status quo. He did what he was told, and he surrounded himself with a bunch of old school Republican backstabbers that basically ruined his first administration. That's why he had to run again to get all this stuff done. Here's Meghan McCain. Jake Tapper trying to repair his crippled reputation.
I do believe Jake Tapper knew a lot of things he didn't report on, that he refused to report on, that he just from his own bias. And I know he said he has since apologized to Laura Trump, but there's an extremely damaging clip of him yelling at Laura Trump when she brings up President Biden's cognitive decline. My anger today is that I think Jake Tapper is trying to whitewash his record the past few years. And he's trying to get all of us, Miranda, you, me, Kate, Ashley, everybody on this Zoom, everyone on this call, everybody listening, everyone in the world to think that he was one of the good guys, and he wasn't.
Jake Tapper, it wasn't. He was one of the bad guys. This is about him even doing the cover up, even when they have to tell the truth and come clean, they're lying. And speaking of, here's Cuomo.
You didn't see and hear his obvious diminished capacity? What we mentioned here at News Nation all the time, this is a shocker.
You didn't call him out.
And now the narrative gets a nudge from a book that is about deception and a cover-up. They want you to believe the media was deceived into thinking Biden had no issues.
You acted like he had no issues. This is what I mean by part of the cover-up. These guys are completely whitewashing their own reputation. You know what's amazing in media? So all of the media covered up for Joe Biden. And now they're going, let's get those guys who covered this thing up. They all talk about other people in media. No one in media goes, I did it. I'm the media that covered it up. No Democrat goes in and goes, I was the one who covered it up. They're all going, we gotta flush, we gotta call these people out. And can you imagine that Democrat media is trying to cover this thing up? Cuomo, you're one of them. Tapper, you're one of them. All y'all. Sam Harris, all y'all, all the smart people did this. What do you guys think? Will the Democrat Party learn, or will they continue down this path of wonderful lying that will continue to get them to lose elections? I want to find out from you. Hats off to the Quad Club. I'm working on my next video coming right up. I'm Doug in Exile.